Hey YouTubers, it's your girl Jackie O. I'm doing this video because one of my most popular, viewed, loved, and raved videos is my eyebrow video. And I think, the eyebrow is just, to me, is almost always the focus feature of my face. It's the part I get the most compliments on. It's just something I've always been passionate about. I love, love, love eyebrows. But ever since I uploaded that tutorial, I just feel like there was a lot of things that I could have included, a lot of things that I feel like I left out or I just didn't know about. And my technique has changed a little bit, so I just wanted to share with you guys a new way that I do my brows. It's virtually the same concept, just using different tools and a few different tricks. And I'm actually using a few things that you might find are a little bit easier to follow along with, if you do consider yourself a beginner. So let's talk about what we're going to be needing. I'm going to be using MAC's Stud Brow Pencil. When it comes to picking a color, you want to go like 1 to 2 shades darker than your hair color. And this Stud is more for the deeper tone. Anybody lighter than me, if you're a brunette, I would go with Spiked Brow Pencil. And then they have one for redheads. I don't remember what it's called, but I can find out, and I will put that as an annotation on the video. And for blondes, you either want to go for Lingering or Fling brow pencil. You just got to kind of play with them, see how they look on you, and that's pretty much it. But always go like 1 to 2 shades darker, and never, ever, 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 ever use black. I can understand if you use a black pencil and just kind of dilute it down with like a brown and use a mixture of two, but never ever use just black by itself. It never looks natural, ever. So there's the pencil. You're gonna need a dual-sided brush. Obviously, I know I need a new one, okay? But I use the comb side for my lashes, and then I use the brush side for my brows. You're gonna need your powder, whatever powder you choose to set your foundation with. You're going to need some of that. And this is Mineralized Skinfinish Natural in Deep Dark. Okay, this is my 249 brush. This is my absolute favorite brush. I've sworn by this brush for a few years now. I love it because it just really allows you to work that concealer underneath the brow. And you're going to need something that's really, 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 really stiff. See how it just pops back right into the original form? You want something like that, okay? And also it really gets just really thin, okay? Look at that. Look how thin that gets. You want something like that. I'm using 2 different types of concealers. This is the Studio Finish Concealer by MAC. For those of you MAC Pro members, MAC Pro members, this is the same formula as the Full Coverage Foundation. Exact same. It's really, really thick. It's really, really creamy. And I've been using this a lot lately, and I recommend this to a lot of my clients that consider themselves beginners, because when you use the Select Cover-Up, which is a liquid, which is the one I was using in my first video, this one's a lot trickier to use because it's so liquid, so it spreads faster. So then it starts like messing up your brows faster. Does that make sense? So this one's a little bit creamier in consistency, so it's, a little bit easier to play with. So this is NW45. This is my foundation shade, and I have here NW40. This is the shade lighter, and I'm going to be showing you what we're going to be doing with this, doing some highlighting and some fun stuff. So for the purposes of time, I already filled in this brow, and I'm going to fill this in, show you how I shape it, and we're going to be doing 2 different concealer tricks on these eyes, okay? So first thing I'm going to do is take my brow brush, and instead of brushing my brows upwards, I actually brush them downwards, because they're short enough to get away with that. Now this technique, you guys, is not going to work for everyone. If you already have a fuller brow, obviously it's going to be less work, but for those of you guys that have more thinner, less of an arch, less of a natural shape, this will be really, really helpful for you guys. But those of you guys with more already natural fuller brows, you're not going to need to do this much work. And it's just a personal preference for me, because my brows are naturally fuller, but I just like them to look this way, so this is what I do. Okay? So before I do any drawing or coloring in, first thing is a guideline. How do you find your natural arch? How do you know where the brow to begin? How do you know where it ends? Etc., etc., etc. I want you to take your brow pencil that you're going to use, okay? Now we're going to be using the corner of our nose right in here as a guideline, okay? You're going to line your pencil straight up. That is where your eyebrow should begin. Okay, I can't tell you how many times I've seen some brow tutorials and these girls have their eyebrows coming up in here, borderline unibrow. You should not be able to fit only one finger in between your brow. Like, it looks noticeable. Okay, so take your pencil. Your brow should start about there. Okay, and if you look here, that's where my brow starts. Now take your pencil, and where your iris ends, your eyeball, your pupil, whatever the hell it's called, you want to line it up with the corner of your eyeball, and that's right about where your arch should be, okay? Does not have to be exact, but it's just a general guideline. So if your arch is up in here, or all the way back here, it's not going to look natural, okay? Now for demonstration, let's see this eye. See, my arch ends right about there, or starts right about there, where my pupil ends, just like that, okay? Now, you're going to take your pencil again, the corner of your nose, where your actual eye, at the corner of your eye, that's where your eyebrow should come to an end. Your tail end should not be down here, shouldn't be up here, it should be right about in here, where the corner of your nose and the corner of your eye meet, right in there. Now for here, that's right about where my eyebrow ends. Okay? So for those of you that are having trouble finding a natural arch, finding, you know, just reevaluate how you're doing your brows, because it really does make a difference, okay? So with that being said, since I already know, you know, the way I shape my brows, I'm just going to go ahead and fill them in. Now, some people feel more comfortable using pencil. Some people feel more comfortable using shadow. Using a shadow and using a pencil are two completely separate techniques. You cannot apply as much pressure with a pencil the way you do an eyeshadow. You have to use very minimal pressure with the pencil, short, soft strokes. You don't want to just press too hard like you would, like when you're writing on a piece of paper. That's not the way you write on your brows, okay? Very, very minimal pressure. See how soft those strokes are? Just like that. And you're going to build it to how dark you want the brow. Always start off really, really light. That's probably one of the biggest things that I get from a lot of people. They say they come out too dark, they don't look natural, and that's just the reason why. And I prefer not to use shadow. I just feel like I get sufficient. I feel like the pencil just does enough on its own for me, so I just use the pencil by itself. If it doesn't work for you, then get an eyeshadow and, you know, use them interchangeably, or just use the shadow. Use what works for you. I just find that the pencil looks more natural. I've seen a few videos where they tell you not to use pencil all the way through. That's a myth. They just don't know how to do it right. I'm not trying to be mean, but I use pencil, and people almost always think that it's an eyeshadow on my brows. So I'm going to show you what I do exactly to make it look so natural, okay? So let's start filling in. I usually start from the beginning and at the bottom. And I do a lot of pausing. I stop and I'm checking for symmetry, okay? And then I go back and I fill in. Checking for symmetry throughout the process is going to be the most important, because if you're not used to this technique, it's going to be very easy to have two separate eyebrows. Now, they don't have to be perfect, but you want them to look alike, you know what I mean? So I have my bottom line drawn in. That's going to be pretty much like your base. You're going to be following the brow to match that line that you just created. That's why I start at the bottom, because once you get the bottom line filled in, everything else is easy, okay? So I'm going to start to fill in along the middle of the brow. And once again, minimal, soft strokes. A little bit goes a very long way, okay? And the great thing about these brow pencils is they're retractable, so you don't need a sharpener, they just twist up, okay? Okay, so there is our filled in eyebrow, and I mean, it's okay. It's nothing special about it, but we're gonna make this eyebrow divalicious, okay? Take your brow brush. This is very, very key in making the pencil look natural, because you wanna take the brush side and brush out any harsh lines. Just a few times. Then, in order to get that fading effect, because you want your brow to be multi-dimensional. You don't want it to be one color all the way across. You want it to kind of fade at the beginning, just like a natural eyebrow. You know, they're not just bushy all the way through. They start to fade at the beginning, and then they gradually get fuller and darker. So what I do is I take the brush and I start to brush towards the center. Now when you do this, it's going to look like you have a unibrow, but that's what you want it to look like. And we're going to clean that up with concealer. See how I created that fading effect and it kind of looks like it's growing a unibrow? So just keep brushing inward. And if you need to, just fill in again as necessary. And just keep on brushing. Okay, I feel like that's good enough. I'm going to take my Studio Finish concealer, and for this technique I'm just going to use the same concealer all the way around. Just take your brush and swirl it in there. You want to get a good amount. Now I'm going to start at the bottom, and I'm going to start to just right underneath where you drew those lines. You're going to take that concealer and just clean up those under areas. This is just going to define the brow a little bit more and make it look a little bit more sculpted. Then I start to drag that concealer down. And the great thing about this technique is it acts as a great eyeshadow base for your shadows. So you're concealing out the eye, and it's going to make your shadows look a little bit more vibrant, okay? So now we got to clean up that unibrow. So I'm just going to pack that concealer on and start to erase that little unibrow we created. But you still have that fading effect. See how it looks a little lightened here at the beginning, and the rest of my brow looks a little bit more darker? Then I do the same along the top. Probably not going to see this very well. Just be very, very careful. Be very, very steady. And then you want to blend that out. And there's your brow. And as you can see, it starts right at the tip of my nose. The arch is right where my iris ends. And the brow ends where the corner of my nose and the corner of my eye meet, right there. So, you know, you have a natural looking technique and you have a perfect sculpted brow. Okay, let's show you, I want to show you a different technique where I use the lighter concealer to kind of like highlight and give the brow bone a little bit more definition, okay? So, since this brow has already been filled in, I'm just going to take my brush through those hairs like I did before with the first brow, and then start to do that pulling motion forward to create that fading effect for the brow. And once again, you're going to go back and fill in if necessary. And then brush a little bit again. Okay, now instead of using the NW45 concealer, I'm going to use NW40. A lot of people ask me why is it that I don't use a lighter concealer like I guess everybody else does. It's just a personal preference. You don't always have to use a lighter concealer. All it does is it just acts as a highlighter, okay? That's plain and simple. Same concept, it's just, you're just accentuating the brow bone a little bit more. Biggest mistake with this little highlighter trick is I find it only looks good when you do it at the bottom. I cannot stand when people take the lighter concealer all the way around and then they have like this white halo around their brows. It looks like, you know how when someone just gets their eyebrows waxed and it's like that fresh skin? That's what that looks like. So if you're going to use a lighter concealer all the way around your brow, make sure along the top area you set it with a powder like mineralized skin finish or like your foundation, and you just kind of cover that area up because it looks awful. And I can't tell you how many tutorials I've seen where these girls have like this white ring around. It looks so unnatural. It looks so unnatural. You know what I mean? Like if I was doing my makeup in such a way that it was looking crazy, and you know, I would want somebody to say something to me. So great trick, but just be careful how you do this, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the same brush I used before and just, you know, plain and simple underneath my brow, I'm going to take that concealer and just define the brow a little bit more. And then you drag it down into your brow bone, and that acts as a brow bone highlighter. Just make sure you blend it out nice and smooth. Now that that's done, I'm going to go back with my natural foundation color because we don't want that white looking halo all the way around the brow, okay? Take your natural concealer color, the one that's natural to your skin tone, and for the top, I'm just going to do the exact same thing. And just smooth that out so it's natural to the rest of my skin tone. And we can't forget about our little unibrow there. Brush again if you need to. Brow setting gels are optional. Once again, I usually recommend that for clients with more fuller brows. I don't really need to set my brows because they're so short, they pretty much stay put. So that is pretty much the tutorial. Just, you know, it's very simple. It's a little bit, I want to say like high maintenance, but to me, it's like on my days when I do minimal makeup, I just don't do my brows at all, because if my brows don't look like this when I'm wearing makeup, then I don't want them to look like anything at all. This is just the way I prefer my brows to look when I have a full face of makeup. It's either all or nothing for me. So, you know, if this technique doesn't work for you, please just, you know, by all means, you're more than welcome to. There's tons of, you know, brow tutorials out there, but this is just what works for me, and this is what I think complements my face a little bit more. So I really, really hope you guys found this video more helpful, more so than the first tutorial I had. If you guys have any questions, please do not hesitate to ask, but please just make sure, you know, you read sidebar information and just watch the full video. So other than that, that's pretty much it. I hope you guys found the tutorial once again helpful, and I will see you guys later. Bye.